Hello, I'm Jason, President and CEO of Complex Community Federal Credit Union. We're excited to be with you again. Wish we were in the classroom, but it is what it is today. We love financial literacy. That's the reason we teach it. We hope to get you to make better decisions in your life. Better decisions about how you buy a car, where you spend your money, how you spend your money, your budgeting. There's a whole variety of things that we're going to touch on. We've spent a lot of time in the classroom with you the last 12 years. We wish we could be there, but until then, enjoy the video, and we look forward to seeing you down the road in the classroom.
Hi everyone, my name is Madison with Complex Community Federal Credit Union, and today we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. So first, we've got to define what an entrepreneur is. Entrepreneurs are people who organize and manage any business. They bear the risk of organizing and managing that business, but they also gain all of the rewards of having that business. Some examples of famous entrepreneurs that you will be familiar with are people like Henry Ford or Walt Disney, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs. Those are some famous entrepreneurs, but some local entrepreneurs in our community would be Mr. Colin Sewell of Sewell Ford, or Miss Sandra Oaf of the Downtown Marriott, the man who owns Corporal Ray's, his name is Jerry Bevel. Or think about Torchy's Tacos. It's a actual storefront restaurant that we have now, but it started as a taco stand, actually as a food truck, and the man who started that company is Mike Ripka. Those are all examples of entrepreneurs. So these people are not necessarily entrepreneurs just because they bought or they own their own business, but because they identified a need in our community and they brought a new idea that helped to better serve the needs that they identified. So for example, Sandra Oaf was instrumental in bringing the convention center that changed our downtown. It changed that landscape. So she identified that we needed our downtown to flourish, and so she brought an idea, brought a business, and made that to happen. So entrepreneurs are those people who identify a need, and then they provide a solution for that need, whether that's in a product or a service, but through business. Entrepreneurs are really important drivers of our economic growth and innovation. But I want to spend a couple minutes giving you some information about Walt Disney. He was one of our famous entrepreneurs that I listed before, but let me tell you a little bit about his story. So Disney, as a child, his father at that time was beating him with a switch daily. He was a really strict disciplinarian, and in order to cope with that, Walt began to draw. Those drawings provided him with a world that he could escape to. His first job in the animation industry was in Kansas City, and he worked for a company that created animated commercials. This is when he fell in love with drawing, and he got to see his drawings come to life through the magic that is animation. So at that same time, he started to produce his own short animated films. He really struggled at this time. He had almost nothing to his name. He began having to live out of his office in order to make ends meet. He couldn't afford to eat anything but canned beans. But it was during this time that he found a lifelong friend in a mouse that visited each night to his office to eat a cold beef dinner on the floor in that small office that he turned into his home. Remember that. So eventually that business went bankrupt, but Disney moved to LA. It was there that he had his first successful creation, which was named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Unfortunately, some legal things happened, and he actually did not end up receiving the credit for that until later. But regardless of all of that trial, he pushed on, but he got his inspiration from his old friend the mouse that visited him in that office back in Kansas City. That was the inspiration that created Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse, however, was rejected over 300 times before Mickey Mouse and the Steamboat Willie brought him a real breakthrough. It was the first cartoon that had a synchronized soundtrack, meaning that it was the first cartoon that the words matched the animation. It was genius. It was way ahead of the time. At the time, they were in black and white, and they didn't have the sound that went with the animation. So he started there, but then he quickly embraced color in his films. He flourished, especially in the season of the Depression, because just like his childhood cartoons provided him with an escape, these animations that he was creating, this Mickey Mouse that he was starting to push forward, created that escape for people in that horrible time of the Depression. So in 1937, Disney released the first ever full-length animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He released that film. It was the first of its kind. Then he released a couple more that actually were not very successful. They each lost about $500,000. $500,000 in the 1930s is about $9 million today, so it was a big deal. But he continued to press on. So he was the first Hollywood studio to expand beyond the big screen. So at this time, these movies were only in theaters, and embrace television. Television was state of the art, and he was the first animation Hollywood studio to bring his work to television, and he started the show Mickey Mouse Club. Then he pressed on, and in 1950, he leveraged everything he owned, his life insurance, his company, his home, all of his earthly belongings, and purchased land in California. Disneyland became the real-life version of the fantasy world he escaped to in his youth, and is now known as the happiest place on earth. So 10 years later, after that, he had a huge entertainment empire, and he purchased 27,000 acres in Orlando and began building Walt Disney World. Mr. Disney unfortunately did not live to see its completion, but however, since his death, Disney has launched the Disney Channel, which is one of the most popular TV networks for children. They've acquired ABC, ESPN, National Geographic, as well as Pixar, the Muppets, the Star Wars universe, Marvel, and most recently they launched Disney Plus, which is one of the most popular streaming services in the world. So Disney is an example, a great example of an entrepreneur. He saw those needs and then he filled them. So let's look back at his biography that I just read to you, and we're going to talk about what those needs were and what the solution was. Because remember that we talked about an entrepreneur is someone who identifies a need and then provides a product or a service to fill that need to create that solution. So the first one, the need that he saw was that animated shorts at the time were beginning to have sound, but the music didn't really match the animation. His solution was he created the first cartoon that had a synchronized soundtrack in that Steamboat Willie, Mickey Mouse and the Steamboat Willie. Then his next need that he saw was that animated films at the time were just short snippets. They were like the before the movie kind of commercial snippets. And he decided that we needed a full-length animated film that was a cartoon. That he created, the very first one. His solution was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. His next need that he identified was that television was brand new and it was untouched by Hollywood studios. And his solution was creating the Mickey Mouse Club and embracing that television and using that to expand his empire at that point. Then Disneyland. That next project that he saw a need for was Disneyland. He saw that people needed a place to escape. He knew that they needed something that they could call the happiest place on earth, and his solution was he built just that fantasy world, and he made, from his childhood, he made that a reality with Disneyland. So that's what an entrepreneur is. They're someone who doesn't let the hard times stop them, but they identify that need, they solve it with a solution. Sometimes it takes more than one solution, but they press forward. So let's take a second and step into the shoes of an entrepreneur. We are going to, as a class, start our own business. Now, there are three pieces that are really important to starting our new business. So first, we mentioned, again, entrepreneurs identify the need. And so we, the entrepreneurs, are going to identify a need, and then we're going to come up with an idea that fulfills that need. So entrepreneurs, they don't wake up knowing how to successfully solve every need that they identify. They have to spend some time brainstorming. They have to come up with different ways or ideas to provide that solution. But just like I mentioned before, entrepreneurs face failure. That's the risk that they take on. They're not going to be instantly successful. But what sets them apart is that when they do fail, they turn around and they try again. Think about Walt Disney again. His very first business went bankrupt. The funding for Mickey Mouse was rejected 300 times. And that's one of the most successful things we identify with Disney, but 300 times people told him no. His first animated film was successful, but the next 3 lost $500 million or more each. So those are huge setbacks in his journey. Again, think about Disney World. Now we identify Disney World as, again, that happiest place in the world. It's the happiest place on earth. That is the phrase that goes with Disneyland, but it wasn't always that. On opening day, it was referred to as Black Sunday because it was disastrous. There was long lines. It was a chaotic nightmare. They had people make fake tickets, and so it was just like flooded with people wanting to see it. But they had plumbing issues. It was over 100 degrees outside, so hot that the heels on women's shoes were beginning to melt onto the asphalt. People called that day Walt Disney's folly. They thought it was going to be the end of him. And now we know it is the happiest place on earth. It is somewhere that people still from all over the world travel to visit. So those are big failures that they face. But Walt Disney said this about adversity and a failure. He said, all adversity I've had in my life, all my troubles and obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you. He also said, first, think, second, dream, and finally, dare. So that first step of we've got to identify that need. Then we've got to think about it. We've got to brainstorm and dream up a solution. And then we get to where we can dare. We dare by creating our business plan. So first step, identify that need, do the brainstorming. Second important piece is we need a business plan. So a business plan is a tool that is used to organize your thoughts and ideas for a product. And your business plan is going to include information like your target market, your product ideas, your marketing plan, sales strategies, key selling points. It just lines out your thoughts and ideas for that business. And then thirdly, you need a financial plan, which is just an outline of your business's financials, including information like the cost of making the product and then the potential profit you're going to make from selling it. So we are going to dive into a business plan. We're going to work through in these sessions what it would be like for us to be an entrepreneur and create a lemonade business. We're going to spend the next couple of sessions talking about that, but today we're going to spend most of our time talking about the business plan. So in your business plan, it's really important to outline your identity. That's going to be your company name, maybe your logo, if you have a slogan, a tagline, core values, those identifying pieces of your business. So for example, the credit union's logo is behind me, but our tagline also behind me is present for you. Present for you is an identity for us. It identifies who we are because it gives a snapshot of the heart of our business, that we are present for our members, that we're present for our community. So it's important to identify yourself in your business plan. So for our lemonade business, some examples of what our names could be might be sweet and sour, or whatever our classroom name is, we can tie off of that. So we could call it the Avid Lemonade Stand. But whatever that business name is, it needs to identify who we are. It's our identity. And then we need to define what our product is and what its purpose is. So this gives us the opportunity to explain what the need that we identified was and then how our product serves to fill that need. So for example, if you think of Tom's shoes, they are cloth shoes that were created with a program called 1 for 1. And how that worked was when I bought one pair of Tom's, then another pair was donated to someone who might not have shoes. So that 1 for 1 program identified their product, it identified who they were and what that mission was. So you can tell a lot by what your product's purpose is. So our product and its purpose is going to be lemonade. Now it can be, we could talk about regular lemonade, pink lemonade, strawberry lemonade, frozen lemonade, but once we narrow that down to what our product is going to be, we tag it onto what our purpose is. So maybe for you, you decide as a class that you're going to sell lemonade outside of the gym because you know that athletes after practice are thirsty and they're hot and they need something that's refreshing. So maybe we sell strawberry lemonade for the athletes, but that is me identifying what my product is and what my purpose is. So that also leads right into identifying who our target market is. So that was our purpose, was for athletes. Well, then our target market is our athletes. That's who we're going to market and sell to. Our target market is who we want to buy our product. So if you think about the brand Frosted Flakes, the cereal, their target market is kids, and I bet that you can tell me what their mascot is and what their tagline is, because they have marketed well to the demographic of their target market, the kids. Their mascot is Tony the Tiger, and their tagline is "They're great," right? So that is marketing to their target market. Our target market, again, if we use the athletes, that is who we're going to sell it to. We can expand that to be maybe just the students at our school is that target market. We have to be realistic about this. It's not realistic for us to say the entire world is our target market at this stage. We are a small business, and so it's not practical for us to be shipping lemonade to China. So when you're thinking about your target market, that's important to consider as well. And then we have to consider what our selling points are. So these selling points are what set our product apart from other products. Why would I rather buy our lemonade than lemonade from anyone else? These are, if there are special features, does it benefit someone? These are those pieces that set you apart. So think back to Tom's, I mentioned before, those shoes. One of their selling points is that effort to help those who don't have shoes get shoes. So I might buy shoes from Tom's just for that reason. That's a good selling point. Another good selling point would be something that sets it apart, that's unique. The fact that our lemonade is strawberry, that it might be frozen, that might be something that sets it apart. But think about why you buy the products that you buy. What are the selling points of those products? And then use some of the things that you're familiar with to help shape your selling points. Another great selling point, if we were doing this as a class, would be the fact that you're students. People want to support students. We want to see students be successful. So if your class was having a lemonade stand and I, as an adult, was having a lemonade stand, and we were next to each other and we sold the same things, most likely someone is going to buy it from you just because you're a student before they would buy it from me, just an adult, right? So that's a selling point. Get creative about what sets your business apart. Entrepreneurs are innovators. They're risk takers. They're drivers of our economy, but anyone can be an entrepreneur. All it takes is being able to identify that need, having a good idea, a good business plan, and then being daring enough to take the risk. Just like Walt Disney said, think about it, plan it, and then dare to take the risk. Entrepreneurs are people from all walks of life, but most of the time they start just like you and I do. And then they have a big idea, and then they are brave enough to take that risk and then to continue to seek after that success even when they are faced with obstacles. Next session, we are going to dive in and talk about marketing. We're going to talk about how we sell our products, how we get the word out, and then we're going to talk about financial plans and what that really looks like when we're starting a business. as an entrepreneur.